In an issue of the journal Philosophy Now, philosopher Nathan Radke makes the case that the Peanuts cartoon character Charlie Brown is an existentialist. Much like the characters from the writings of Jean-Paul Sartre, Charlie Brown is an authentic anti-hero. Radke writes this about Charlie Brown. He is alone both physically and emotionally. He is alienated from his peers. In desperation, he looks to God for comfort and hope. Instead, his angst overwhelms him and manifests itself as physical pain. There is no comfort to be found. Radke also puts forth Linus as another existentialist. He writes, at Christmas time, Linus dictates a letter to Santa questioning the validity of Santa's ethical judgments regarding the goodness or badness of the individual child. What is good? What is bad? Asks Linus. Good questions, says Radke. And I think he's right. There's a sort of existential gloom that pervades much of Charlie Brown's world. But that's only one part of the story. Another part is the music. Vince Guaraldi's wonderful soundtracks for the Charlie Brown television shows convey not only a sense of seasonal melancholy, but also great joy, and at times wild abandon and playfulness that stand in stark contrast to the existential angst of being. This time of year, when nights are long, it's easy to get lost in a haze of moodiness and dark thoughts, especially when we realize that the reality of the holiday season never really lives up to our expectation of it. And this year, as we've just passed the mark of 800,000 COVID deaths in the United States and countless disruptions and delays in our everyday lives, not to mention social, economic, and political unrest, we are especially mindful of the ways in which reality might not meet our expectations. But then, as I said, there's the music. Not the awful shopping mall music that starts up around Halloween now every year, but the real music that's made in community with others. The carols, the children's school concerts, the church choir cantatas. In many ways, this music is the meaning of the season. Because music, if we are open to it, has the power to lift us and remind us that there is another possibility besides darkness. It is the possibility of light, the light that slowly begins to return when we have made room for it in the darkness. And so it is we celebrate the music of the season today, for it is music itself that might answer Charlie Brown's existentialist query, isn't there anyone who understands what Christmas is all about? The piece that our trio is about to play, Christmas Time is Here, captures both the hoped-for promise of the season and also suggests the sense of melancholy that is inherent in this time of year when things never quite seem to live up to our expectations. And there's more. By the way, I'd like to thank our trio. We have a guest bassist with us today, Anton DeFade. Anton DeFade on the bass. On drums, our own John Pollock. And, of course, on piano, Buddy Rigger. As described in America magazine, when A Charlie Brown Christmas debuted 56 years ago, on December 9th, 1965, CBS executives were so sure it would fail, they informed its executive producer, Lee Mendelson, that they were showing it only because it had already been announced in the TV guide. The magazine article goes on to say, much about the success of A Charlie Brown Christmas did defy common sense and continues to do so today. Consider its pacing, for instance. Charlie Brown was one of the first animated holiday cartoons, appearing just 1 year after Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And yet, unlike Rudolph, in Charlie Brown, very little happens. The special opens with a long, almost meditative take of children skating loops on the pond, the wistful original song, Christmas Time is Here, which we just heard playing in the background. Many of the scenes that follow have a similar fragmented, ephemeral quality. Kids talk about Christmas cards, their list for Santa, they throw snowballs, they dance, they talk some more. There is an almost documentary-like verisimilitude to the project. Charles Schulz, the creator of Peanuts, and animation director Bill Melendez capture perfectly that peaceable aimlessness, that numinous timelessness that many American children experience during the holidays, their lives hushed like the landscape under a thick blanket of snow. And Charlie Brown was way ahead of its time in exploring a subject, Christmas as being something less than completely joyous and happy for children, that had not been allowed or encouraged in the past. As Caitlin Flanagan wrote in The Atlantic recently, Charles Schulz had what Maurice Sendak had, respect for children. He understood the way they think and feel, not the way adults want them to think and feel. He understood that there's a point in children's growing up when Christmas doesn't work its magic as reliably as it once did. Schulz let them explore a taboo subject, Christmas time unhappiness, while still reassuring them that Christmas is good and fun and a wonderful thing. He also insisted that there be no laugh track, saying that if the children found it funny, they would laugh. And he insisted that children, rather than adult voice actors, read the dialogue. Schulz also insisted on making the show go deeper than most Christmas specials in exploring, even for children, perhaps especially for children, the idea that there was more to the holiday than the shallow, commercialized, secular aspects of the celebration of Christmas. Author and priest Richard Rohr wrote, "What makes something secular or profane is to live on the surface of anything. It's not that the sacred is over here and the profane is over here. Everything is profane if you live on the surface of it, and everything is sacred if you go into the depths of it. So the division is not between the secular and the sacred, but between the superficial and the profound." What Charles Schulz was trying to accomplish with A Charlie Brown Christmas was a vehicle for taking viewers from the shallow, profane surface of the season toward the sacred, sometimes forgotten depths that are at the heart of Christmas and give it real and profound meaning. In doing so, Schultz broke another taboo, bringing up material that was specifically religious in the context of primetime television, which I'll discuss in further detail in just a moment. But first, we'll listen to our trio play another piece from the show, Vince Guaraldi's arrangement of the old German carol O Tannenbaum. And we're not letting them go quite yet. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, it was the explicitly Christian aspect of A Charlie Brown Christmas that most worried its creators. Again, as described in America magazine, the most problematic element of the show was Schultz's decision to build the climax of Charlie Brown's search for the true meaning of Christmas around Linus's proclamation of the Gospel of Luke's nativity story. Much like today, to discuss religion publicly was considered fraught with hazard. When animator Bill Melendez first heard about it, he thought it was a very dangerous place to go into. There were no religious cartoons at the time. Animation was an entertainment, not a church service. Melendez told Schultz, "We can't do this. It's too religious." But it had been the religious dimensions of Christmas that had drawn Schultz to the project in the first place. Producer Lee Mendelson remembers Schultz explaining it to him, "If we can talk about what I feel is the true meaning of Christmas, it would really be worth doing." He told Melendez, "Bill, if we don't do it, who else can?" As you'll recall, at the moment in the show when Charlie Brown is in the deepest, darkest part of his existential crisis after having been disgusted by the commercial aspects of the holiday and after having been mocked and shunned by the other children, he cries out that line, "Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?" And that's when Charlie Brown's best friend Linus literally steps up onto the stage and says, "Lights, please," and recites the nativity story from the Gospel of Luke. It only takes about 39 seconds. But during that time, the entire mood of the show changes, going from disgust and despair to an ancient articulation of faith and hope in the form of the birth of a baby. It's one of those crystal clear, sacred moments in the midst of anguish, noise, and confusion. But the real religious power and message of A Charlie Brown Christmas is contained in the scenes that occur after Linus's tidings of great joy. After that mic drop moment, Charlie Brown, temporarily liberated from his sadness, tries to decorate his pathetic, molting little tree. The placement of a single red ornament causes it to buckle, leading Charlie Brown to believe that he has failed once again. "Everything I touch gets ruined," he says, abandoning the tree and the TV screen. But then, again as described by Caitlin Flanagan, the real magic begins. The other children show up. They have spent the entire half hour either ignoring or making fun of Charlie Brown, calling him a blockhead, telling one another he's not the kind you can count on to do anything right, in a pitch-perfect imitation of gossiping adults. But when they see that wilted little tree that he cared about sitting there near dead and alone, their hearts are moved. "I never thought it was such a bad little tree," says Linus. "It's not bad at all, really. Maybe it just needs a little love." He takes his security blanket, which he has until now repeatedly refused to let go of, except for one moment when he's reciting those scripture verses, and wraps it around the base of the tree. The others remove ornaments from Snoopy's now award-winning decorations, and together they transform that ugly branch into something that is still simple but somehow beautiful. They gaze at it silently for a moment, then softly break into song. Flanagan concludes by saying, Today, the chances of selling a Christian-themed anti-commercialism Christmas special would seem just as slim as they were in the 1960s. But more challenging in the present than either of these options is Schultz's vision of a group of sweet but also self-centered, adorable but also kind of mean individuals allowing their own self-interest and sensibilities to fall away before a humble, fragile life. To see with clarity that no matter who stands before them, they aren't so bad really, they just need a little love. Therein lies one of the true messages of Christmas, the profound and sacred meaning that lies beneath the profane and shallow surface of the holiday. In the face of despair, in the face of inward suffering amid outward glitter and glee, in the face of crass commercialization and cruel commentary, what brings us hope is just a little love. Inspired by the story of the birth of an infant, inspired by tending to that sad little Christmas tree, we all discover what the world cries out for, that what each of us truly needs is that little bit of love, and that we are the bringers of that love into the world at a time when it is sorely needed. I hope and pray that each of us might remember this holiday season, this deeper and more sacred aspect of the holidays, not to push away feelings of grief and despair, but to envelop them with compassion and life-giving, life-affirming love. May it be so. Amen.
Please join me with the words for extinguishing our chalice. For those of you who remember, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Together.